Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Dr. Geetinder Goyal, he's a regular contributor on our show, and he's with a practice. It's called OurWayHealth.com. That's OurWayHealth.com. We're doing an ongoing series exploring better ways of doing health care. And the reality is that health care has really gotten poisoned, and it's become sick care rather than health care, with all these extra layers created by insurance companies and by government that really creates bigger distance between the patient and his or her doctor, and creates these economic distortions, and really creates a system in which patients don't get truly treated, but only their symptoms get treated. And so those are passions and concerns that Dr. Goyal has, and is behind his development of his practice, which I'm going to ask him to talk a little bit about here shortly. And that's a lot of the work of our guest today, Dr. Elaina George, and delighted to have her on the program as well. And so, Geetinder Goyal, go ahead and start by telling us a little bit about your work.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Dr. George. Like you said, Kevin, we are a primary care clinic based on the model of direct primary care. Our name is Our Way Health. And what we really, the name stands for is our patients and providers. We believe that it is our fight, the consumers of this country, consumers of healthcare in this country, and the providers of healthcare in this country, which are our providers, our physicians. It is our fight, and the government and insurance companies are not going to fix the healthcare mess we are in. And that is the reason behind starting Our Way Health. And we are starting by providing primary care services on the direct payment model.
Very good. And would you like to introduce our guest, or do you want me to do it?
I learned about Dr. George recently, and I am very delighted to hear her passion, her views, and we need more physicians like Dr. George to, come out of the shell that I believe the physicians been in, and take on this fight and, put a flag down wherever we are and say, look, we're going to do this our way.
Yeah, no question about it. Dr. George, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was so glad to hear about you, because, to a certain extent, people like yourself and Dr. Goyal, you're kind of like, it feels like you're kind of like Don Quixotes. You're taking on these huge, almost mythical beasts of government and big business in the form of insurance. It's all the epitome of crony capitalism, creating this gap, the unnecessary gap between patient and doctor. And so it's a huge battle you're fighting.
It's a battle that I'm happy to fight because I love what I do. Just like Dr. Doyle, I love practicing medicine, and I took the Hippocratic Oath, and it means something to me. And I'm supposed to be an advocate for my patient, not an agent of the government. And like all doctors in this country, we've been playing the game for the past 20 years and trying to play it well. We've added more physician extenders. We've opened more offices. We see more patients. We've gone electronic medical record route. We've maxed out everything we can do to try to optimize the system, but ultimately the whole system's broken, and the things that make it expensive and make it less individualized are the things that empower the healthcare system now. The insurance companies, the third-party administration, the government mandates, and all of the hoops that we have to jump through are literally preventing us from taking care of our patients. And it became a need, not because I wanted to, it's because I had to. And I do have a subscription model to my practice, too. I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and I've opened one for mine, so it covers any ENT procedure that I do in my office, and I get a discount on any surgical procedure that I have to take out of the office. And people really appreciate that because they can't afford what they're doing now.
Yeah, Dr. Goyal, she sounds a lot like you.
Absolutely. And I think we as a primary care model need to be supported by more specialists who offer these kind of payment models for our patients. And the bottom line is, it reduces cost and improves quality, and that's what we are looking for. But this model truly does that.
Yeah, no question.
Unlike the others.
Yeah, the other model is really an insurance model or a government model. It's not a healthcare model. It's not designed for the patient, which is exactly what both of you and every other physician has committed themselves to with the oath that you've taken.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So talk a little bit, Dr. George, about how you are waging this battle, if you will.
Well, I decided to think outside the box. I do a subscription version of my practice. I barter. And I actually started seeing patients that are members of medical cost sharing. And there's a company called Liberty Health Share. I've been a doctor that sees the patients, and it's a self-pay model where the patient controls their own power of their purse, and anything that's medically necessary is covered. And it's been an amazing experience for my practice because we get paid 150% of Medicare rate for an office visit and 170% of Medicare rate for any procedure. That's 3 times more what we get taking insurance without fighting, without pre-certification, and it really does respect both the doctor and the patient. And I've been telling all of my patients and my colleagues about that. That's one way for us to get off of this insurance model, fiasco. It's basically a Ponzi scheme where patients pay in and they're not getting what they need out, and doctors are basically on the hook to get less and less, but be responsible for more credentialing, rhetoric, everything that they're making us do to jump through a hoop. It's unsustainable.
Are you familiar also with Christian Care, MediShare, and Brothers Keeper, and some of the other programs? And what's your sentiments about those?
It's similar, but it's actually expanded so it covers anybody who's liberty-minded. So you don't have to belong to a church. You don't have to have a pastor write you a letter. But you have to commit to Christian principles, and you have to be willing to share in the expense of the other members. So that's the underpinning of it. But they've expanded it so it covers natural treatments, holistic, acupuncture. It covers prescriptions. It gives you a discount for eye, dental. So it's actually expanded on that model.
I love it. All right. Dr. Goyal, your question.
I was reading Dr. George's blog and what she writes about Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as it's most commonly known. I think it's a good thing for our country because we really possibly can't go any deeper into this hole, and now we're basically forced to figure out ways to climb out of this hole. So I think in a way it is a good thing. I think we have gotten to a point where anything we do is only going to be better. I don't know what Dr. George thinks about that.
Yeah, why don't you elaborate on that?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I actually did a talk for the American Physicians and Surgeons group, and that's how I started it. I said that Obamacare was the best thing that could have happened to us because we can't be complacent anymore. It's so bad. It is so, anti-doctor and patient that if we don't jump out of the system, we're going to be victims just like the patient. So it's forced people to now do direct primary care, to look at opening a practice that's sliding scale, cash only. These things are really, to me, that's the future. And I'm seeing a 2-tier system come online. Those people who stay within the insurance model are paying a lot more. They're getting less. They're waiting longer. And they're being controlled, whatever their health access is being controlled by the insurance company because they're deciding what's covered. And those people who've said, I'm not doing this anymore, are accessing cheaper health care. Doctors who practice the Hippocratic Oath, they're getting to do whatever individual treatment that they want to do because it should be always about the individual. That's what's glorified in the free market system.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all, and therefore it can be cheaper, more efficient, and the purpose is to make it more effective. And I think people are learning this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that entirely. By the way, looking at your website, Dr. Elaina George, that's DrElainaGeorge.com. By the way, I noticed you got an op-ed in there. Mentioned an op-ed by my very good friend and former boss, Amy Ridenour of the National Center for Public Policy Research. I worked for the National Center back in the 80s. Fabulous organization, and she's an awesome person. And I love the articles I'm seeing in here. People have got to check out this website. And some, when I met Dr. Goyal, we immediately connected because I was already using the similar rhetoric. I kind of thought I was the only guy talking out there. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I've seen what's happened to the medical field. And I've seen the dramatic move away from health care to sick care. And, I kind of feel like, he and I are alone battling this, but it's great to see someone like you and the platforms that you've had to talk about this.
Oh, it's a blessing, honestly. I just feel like I love what I do. I know that I'm not alone. And the more I talk, the more I'm finding like-minded people and patients now who have realized that it's not a game that they can win. And I actually just wrote a book called Big Medicine, the Cost of Corporate Control, and how doctors and patients working together can rebuild a better system. And people, if they're interested, can get it on my website, drelainageorge.com. But what it does, it actually explores how we got here. Everybody knows it's broken, but nobody ever asks a practicing doctor, what's wrong with it and how do you fix it? So I actually talk about the historical aspect of how it came to be, who the players are, but more importantly, how you get out of it, the solutions. Direct primary care is one of the major solutions. So is medical cost sharing. But you can do other things like supplemental insurance, like AFLAC, where you can purchase policies that cover catastrophic and actually be paid if you get sick. Mm-hmm. $250,000 policies are less than $30 a month. So these are all viable options here now. You don't have to wait for the government to catch up. I don't think there's a legislative answer. I think it's doctors and patients pulling our market share, our power of our purse out, and doing what we want to do with our money. That's how you put pressure on the system.
And groups working together like Liberty to help make it affordable, making it real world.
Correct.
And people at Liberty aren't making insurance executive salaries. And that's part of the reason how that works. Dr. Goyal, your next question.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. I recently learned about, again, Liberty Share also. Dr. George, I know they are present in multiple states. How is their presence in the state of Texas? And
they're present all over the country. Right now, there's 10,000 families that are currently enrolled, and it's growing by leaps and bounds monthly. I actually became a member because I refused to actually use this third-party system. I'm so far much against it, I'm not going to do it. And I was ready to pay a fine before I really realized that because the medical cost sharing is written into the Affordable Care Act, I'm actually within the letter of the law. So I'm paying a maximum, I'm paying the most expensive version of their policies, $199 a month, $500 out of pocket. I know, just going to keep laughing. $500 out of pocket for the entire year, and I'm covered at $1 million per occurrence per year.
And how long have you been a member?
About a year and a half now.
And have you used it?
I put my office staff on it.
Have you used it?
I haven't, but my office has, my office staff. So they've gone for physical therapy. They've gone for dental treatments. We even had one go for Qigong, which is a Chinese herbal treatment. And it's all covered because it's medically necessary. And I now can cover my employees. I'm still within the guidelines of the Affordable Care Act, and I'm paying less than $1,000 a month to cover 3 people. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
So
are they
figured out a way here?
Are they active in helping you grow your practice because of the fact that your values line up with their values?
As a matter of fact, they are, because it's all about having a consortium of like-minded doctors who understand the power of free market. They want everybody to win in this system. This is one of the only things in healthcare at this point that everybody wins. The patient gets covered, the doctor gets paid a fair market, a fair rate, and there's no middleman taking from either one of us. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's growing so quickly. Every time I speak about it, the first thing people say is, why did I know about it? No one ever told me. That's because it's the best kept secret out there. And it's the way to win this game without having to, create new rules. It exists.
By the way,
they actually, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, they have a really innovative thing they just started. It's called Liberty Direct, and it's for primary care practices. So they actually supplement or give towards the person's subscription fee. They pay into it. So they give $60 or $80 or $100 per month towards the person's subscription. And that may mean that that person pays nothing out of pocket for direct primary care as their monthly subscription fee, which is awesome.
That's unbelievable.
Plus, they still get to do, I know, they're really thinking about this. They also want to cover the care population, so it can become the supplemental instead of AARP or any of those other ones that are working against seniors. I think this is the parallel track that could be a viable option that finally puts to rest the Affordable Care Act.
Obviously, we're doing an extended version of our segment. We're going way over, but it's really worth it. Dr. Geetinder Goyal, and he's with ourwayhealth.com. Dr. Elaina George, and that's drelainageorge.com. And I hope, Dr. George, if you don't mind, you might put us in contact with your friends over at Liberty. I think we'd like to do some interviews with them and to share them with our larger audience. So do you think, Dr. Goyal?
Absolutely. I think, it often comes up when I have conversations with our prospective members that, okay, I pay the membership fee, but what about my insurance? And there are not a lot of, true catastrophic policies out there. And this, I feel like, is an ideal fit for direct primary care practices.
So if you don't mind making those connections for us, we'd appreciate that.
I would be happy to. When we're off, you can give me your information. I can send it right to the executive director. I know he's really just adamant about getting the word out there and introducing people to Liberty Health Share.
No, I think that's fantastic. Dr. Elaina George, DRELAINA George.com. You're such an articulate guest, and as always, Dr. Goyal, I love having you on. It's great to know we're not the only ones fighting this.
Absolutely.
No, we're going to win this. I firmly believe we win this. As soon as people know, they'll make the choice that's best for them, and it's a pretty easy call when you think about it.
You know what's really the most startling thing about it is when you talk about Obamacare, and calling it what it is, it is like the epitome of crony capitalism. And it shows you how much of a ripoff it is of the American people when we have this model like Liberty and Christian Care, Medishare, and the other ones, all of which are really good from what I can tell, creating a model that makes so much sense. And it's really like healthcare was up until about 60 or 70 years ago when big business and government thought they needed a piece of that action.
You're exactly right. It's brought the joy back to my practice where I love getting up and going to my patients because it's just them and me in the room, no longer anybody else telling us what you can't have, what you have to jump through a hoop to get. I'm done with that. Yeah. I just want to do what I was put on this earth to do, and I'm tired of people telling me what I can't have. And so I took my power back, and it's been just a revelation for me.
Dr. George and Dr. Goyal, thanks to both of you. Enjoyed it very much. And I do want to remind the listener, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com, including this interview, obviously. And while you're there, make sure you like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. Stay tuned for more right here on The Price of Business.